There will be moments when the world pushes you to the edge. Moments when your heart races, your mind spins, and emotions rise like fire, threatening to burn everything you've built. But in those moments, you must not flinch, you must not fold, you must feel nothing and control everything. Emotions are data, not directives. They are signals generated by the brain in response to internal and external events, shaped by your past experiences, beliefs, and survival instincts. But just because a feeling arises doesn't mean it holds authority. It doesn't mean it's correct. It doesn't mean it should be obeyed. That's the mistake people make. They assume that because an emotion is intense, it must be meaningful, valid, or even wise. But that is a dangerous illusion. Emotions are real, yes, but they are not reliable guides for action. They are reflections of perception, not reality itself. And perception, as we know, is often flawed. Think of emotions like weather. They change, they shift, they move without warning. One moment there's calm, the next a storm brews inside you. If a pilot allowed weather to control the plane, they'd crash. The skilled pilot doesn't ignore the storm, but they don't panic because of it. They read the instruments, assess the situation, and adjust course logically. The storm is information, not an order. That's how emotions must be treated, like incoming signals that deserve to be acknowledged but not blindly followed. When fear rises, it's easy to believe it means stop, hide, or run. But fear is just the body's ancient alarm system preparing you for survival. It doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong. It often means something is challenging or unfamiliar. In a modern world where fear isn't triggered by predators, but by risk, uncertainty, and ambition, that signal must be interpreted, not surrendered to. Courage is born not in the absence of fear, but in the refusal to be controlled by it. Anger is another strong emotion that deceives. It gives the illusion of strength, of certainty, of moral superiority. But if acted upon impulsively, it blinds you to strategy, to long-term outcomes, to truth. Anger can be a clue. Something isn't aligned. Something needs attention. But it is not a green light to attack, lash out, or destroy. A disciplined mind can examine anger without becoming it. You can feel it rise, observe it like smoke rising in a room, and then decide, what does this tell me? What's underneath it? What matters more, being right or being effective? Sadness, too, is often misunderstood. It doesn't always mean you're broken. Sometimes it means you cared. Sometimes it means something mattered deeply. But sadness doesn't mean quit. It doesn't mean disappear. It means slow down, reflect, gather yourself, and then keep going. Emotions are like wind. They can push you off course or fill your sails depending on how you respond. The difference is in the awareness. To operate at your highest level, you must create distance between stimulus and response. That space is where reason lives. That's where discipline is built. When something happens and your first instinct is to react emotionally, pause, breathe, step back. Ask yourself, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Then ask, what is the right thing to do despite this feeling? That's how you develop control. That's how you stop being a puppet of emotion and become a commander of it. This isn't about denying emotion. It's about mastering it, recognizing that it is one input in the system, not the system itself. Logic, values, principles, and long-term goals must outweigh the temporary turbulence of feelings. Otherwise, you're just a leaf in the wind blown in whichever direction the next emotional gust takes you. The strongest individuals aren't emotionless. They are emotionally intelligent. They listen, analyze, and decide. They don't follow their feelings. They lead them. When things get hard, when frustration kicks in, when fear tries to dictate your next move, remember, emotions are data. Just data. Read it, understand it, but never bow to it. Never hand over the steering wheel. Power lies in composure. It's not in brute force, not in how loud you can shout, not in how hard you can hit back, but in how still you can remain while the storm rages around you. Composure is quiet strength. It's the calm in the middle of chaos, the unshakable presence that doesn't flinch when provoked, pressured, or tested. The one who stays composed is the one who sees clearly, acts deliberately, and leads effectively. When everyone else is scrambling, reacting, or losing control, the composed individual becomes the anchor, the one others look to, follow, and trust. In high-stress situations, when emotions flare and tempers rise, people often make decisions they later regret. Words are spoken that can't be taken back. Actions are made in haste. Relationships get damaged. Opportunities are missed. Composure is what prevents that. It's the filter between the feeling and the action, the split second of restraint that separates impulse from intelligence. That space, small as it is where real power lives. Anyone can explode. Anyone can give in to emotion. But not everyone can hold the line, breathe through the fire, and choose the best response over the fastest one. Composure doesn't mean you don't feel anything. It means you control how you express it. It's emotional discipline. It's the ability to absorb pressure without cracking, to listen without interrupting, to assess without panicking. A composed mind is a sharp mind because clarity thrives where emotion is managed. You see more, hear more, and understand more when you're not consumed by your inner chaos. You become strategic rather than reactive. In situations of leadership, negotiation, or crisis, composure becomes a superpower. It doesn't just protect your energy, it commands respect.
People are drawn to composure because it feels like certainty. Even if you don't have all the answers, your stillness sends a message. I can handle this. I'm not afraid of the moment. I won't be rattled by noise. That confidence is contagious. And more than that, it creates influence. Because people don't follow those who lose their heads. They follow those who keep them. When things are going well, anyone can look strong. But when pressure builds, when adversity shows up, when plans fall apart, that's when composure separates the real from the pretend. That's when you see who is built to last. Composure is not passive. It's not weakness. It's not standing back and letting life walk over you. It's the opposite. It's controlled force. It's the boxer who doesn't swing wildly, but waits for the perfect opening. It's the leader who listens more than they speak. It's the warrior who knows that not every battle requires a reaction. It's knowing when to move and when to hold still. When to speak and when to be silent. When to act and when to let others implode under their own lack of control. The composed person doesn't just win the fight, they win the war. We live in a world that glorifies speed, outrage, and emotional outbursts. Social media rewards quick reactions. People chase attention by being the loudest in the room. But that's not where power is. True power is found in those who don't need to prove anything, who don't rise to every insult or challenge, who don't let circumstances dictate their state of mind. Power lies in the ones who respond with purpose, not panic. The ones who can take a deep breath and say, let's think this through. While others are drowning in drama, they are building, planning, and staying 10 steps ahead. Composure turns temporary setbacks into long-term strength. It allows you to endure what others can't. It keeps your energy focused, your judgment clear, and your reputation intact. Because when the storm passes, and it always does, people will remember who lost control and who didn't. They'll remember who acted with poise, who kept their dignity, and who kept moving forward, no matter how intense it got. That's where real power lives, not in how hard you react, but in how well you hold your ground. Discipline over impulse is the mindset that separates those who succeed consistently from those who burn out chasing short-term satisfaction. Impulse is easy, it's immediate, it's reactive, and it often feels right in the moment. But what feels good now often costs more later. Discipline, on the other hand, is deliberate. It's choosing what's best over what's easiest. It's showing up when you don't feel like it, keeping your word when nobody's watching, and acting in alignment with your goals rather than your emotions. Impulse is driven by feelings. It's that voice in your head that says, skip it just this once, or you've earned a break, or you'll start tomorrow. It wants comfort. It wants relief. It wants what's fast, fun, and effortless. But if you follow that voice too often, you lose control. You trade consistency for chaos. You become someone who starts but never finishes. Someone who talks but doesn't deliver. Every time you let impulse win, you weaken your own self-respect. You teach yourself that your feelings are stronger than your commitments. That's how potential dies. Not in one giant failure, but in 1,000 small compromises. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg for attention. It's found in the early mornings, the late nights, and the uncomfortable decisions no one sees. It's waking up to train when your body aches. It's sitting down to work when distractions call your name. It's saying no when everyone else is saying yes. And it's doing it not just once, but every day, even when the reward is far away. Discipline is about choosing structure over chaos, repetition over randomness, and values over mood. Impulse will tell you what you want now. Discipline will remind you what you want most. The goals you've set, the standards you claim, the dreams you chase, none of those are achieved through emotional reaction. They're earned through controlled action, through staying locked in when it's boring, staying focused when it's hard, and staying consistent when progress feels invisible. That's why discipline feels hard, because it asks you to act against the grain of your emotions. But that's also why it builds character. Each time you choose discipline over impulse, you reinforce your identity as someone who is in control. People often wait for motivation to act, but motivation is unreliable. It fades, it fluctuates. Discipline doesn't. Discipline is the decision you make regardless of how you feel. It's the ability to move forward with no applause, no recognition, and no instant gratification. It's about doing the work, because the work must be done. You don't need to feel like it. You need to decide you're going to do it, and then follow through. That's the difference between amateurs and professionals. Amateurs act when they feel like it. Professionals act because it's time. Impulse is a test. It shows up when you're tired, when you're stressed, when your guard is down. It will always look for the quickest exit from discomfort. But comfort is a trap. It seduces you into easing up, backing down, and settling for less. Discipline is the voice that cuts through that noise. It says, this is who I am. This is what I do. It's not emotional. It's not negotiable. It's locked in. And the truth is, the life you want, the goals you write down, the identity you're building, they all demand sacrifice. You have to give up the comfort of the moment for the strength of the future. That means saying no to distraction, no to excuses, no to weakness. You don't train for the days you feel good. You train for the days you don't. You build discipline so that when your emotions betray you, your habits won't. So when the impulse to quit, delay, or indulge comes knocking, you've already decided. Discipline wins here. Every time. Detach to dominate is not about shutting down emotionally or becoming numb to the world. It's about creating the distance necessary to see things clearly and act with precision. When you're too close to a situation, too emotionally entangled, your judgment gets clouded. You react instead of respond. You grip too tight or get pulled under by the emotional weight of the moment. Detachment isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's the strength to remove yourself from the storm so you can navigate it with control. When you detach, you don't stop caring, you stop being controlled by how you care. There is a power that comes with being able to separate your emotions from your decisions. Emotions are natural, they rise and fall like waves, but if you make every choice based on how you feel, you become erratic, unreliable, and easily manipulated. Detachment gives you space between what's happening and how you act. It gives you the ability to analyze instead of panic, to plan instead of react, to stay sharp when others are losing their heads. That space between emotion and action is where your edge lives. That's where domination begins, not with aggression, but with awareness. Domination isn't always about being louder, faster, or stronger. Sometimes it's about being calmer, cooler, more calculated. The person who can detach in the heat of the moment has the advantage. They can spot weaknesses, assess threats, and strike with purpose, while others are blinded by ego, fear, or emotion. Detachment lets you zoom out. It puts you in a position of strategy, not survival. And in any competition, business, sport, leadership, life, the person who operates from strategy will always outlast the one driven by emotional impulse. You can't dominate a space if you're constantly reacting to it. If you're driven by what others think, feel, or say, you're playing their game. You're dancing to their rhythm. Detachment frees you from that. It makes you immune to manipulation. When you're not emotionally tied to outcomes, you make sharper moves. You don't chase approval. You don't beg for validation. You don't flinch when things don't go your way. You adapt, adjust, and move forward with intent. That's how domination works, through controlled, consistent execution, not desperate action. This kind of detachment takes discipline. It takes training. You have to unlearn the need to always react. You have to silence the urge to prove yourself or take everything personally. You have to teach your mind to pause, assess, and act, not in emotion, but in alignment with your mission. That means stepping back when things get heated. It means resisting the temptation to make everything about your feelings. Feel them, yes, but don't let them drive. Detachment is about letting your principles lead, not your emotions. When you're emotionally attached, outcomes can break you. You become obsessed with winning in a certain way, getting a certain result, or being seen a certain way. If any of that gets threatened, you panic, you overreach, you lose control. Detachment allows you to stay centered, regardless of the outcome. You don't need it to happen exactly as planned, because you trust yourself to adapt. You trust yourself to execute. That trust gives you freedom, and that freedom gives you power. In relationships, detachment allows you to communicate better. In business, it allows you to negotiate from strength. In competition, it keeps your mind clear when pressure is high. You're not weighed down by insecurity or emotion. You're light, agile, and focused. That kind of presence is rare, and people notice. When you move without desperation, you move with authority. When you speak without emotional chaos, your words hit harder. When you act without needing a reaction, your power multiplies. Detachment isn't about caring less. It's about caring intelligently. You give your energy where it matters, and you withdraw it from the noise. You keep your mission in front, and your emotions in check. That balance allows you to lead, to win, to dominate, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. And clarity beats chaos every time. The mind is the general, and emotion is the soldier. This metaphor captures the essential relationship between reason and feeling, between leadership and action, between strategy and impulse. In any battle, the general is the one who plans, who sees the bigger picture, who decides the course and timing of every move. The soldier, on the other hand, is the one who carries out those orders, strong, fierce, and ready to act, but ultimately subordinate to the general's command. Without the general, the soldier is directionless. Without the soldier, the general is powerless. Together, they must work in harmony, but it is the mind, the general, that must always lead. Too often, people confuse emotion for leadership. They let feelings dictate their choices, allowing impulses to run rampant without oversight. When this happens, the soldier takes over, charging into battle without a plan, reacting to every sound and shadow, vulnerable to distraction and defeat. But a soldier who fights without orders is a liability, just as a mind that cannot control its emotions is easily overwhelmed. The real power lies in ensuring the mind remains in control, guiding the emotions rather than being guided by them. The mind, as the general, has the capacity to see beyond the immediate chaos. It understands context, consequences, and long-term goals. It can weigh risks and benefits, plan multiple steps ahead, and adapt strategies as situations change. Emotion, the soldier, experiences the intensity of the moment, fear, anger, joy, frustration, but these feelings are raw energy that needs direction. When the mind commands the soldier, it channels that energy purposefully, turning passion into focus, fear into caution, and anger into determination. Consider how battles are won.
not by reckless charge, but by calculated strategy. The general orders troops where and when to strike, when to hold the line, when to retreat. The soldier executes these commands with discipline and courage, knowing the success of the mission depends on following orders precisely. In life, your mind is that general. It must issue clear commands to your emotional soldier, deciding when to engage, when to hold back, and when to move forward. Without this leadership, your emotions become a chaotic force, leading to impulsive decisions, regret, and confusion. This relationship requires training and awareness. The mind must be strong enough to maintain authority, especially under pressure. Emotions are powerful and can overwhelm the unprepared. Fear can paralyze, anger can blind, and excitement can distract. But when your mental general is trained through discipline, reflection, and practice, it can calm the soldier, direct its energy, and keep it focused on the mission. You don't ignore or suppress emotions. You respect them as your soldiers, but you don't let them decide your fate. In moments of crisis, the general's role becomes even more critical. When stress rises, adrenaline surges, and emotions scream for immediate action, it is the mind's job to stay composed, assess the situation, and give measured orders. Panic is the soldier running wild without command. Calm is the soldier acting under wise leadership. This is why leaders who maintain mental control inspire confidence and create stability, even in chaos. Their presence commands the emotional soldier to follow with precision and strength. The mind also serves as the general by learning from past battles. It reviews what worked, what failed, and how to improve future strategies. Emotion, being reactive and present-focused, does not have this capacity. Without the general's oversight, the soldier repeats mistakes, driven by unresolved fears or unexamined habits. The mind's ability to reflect and adapt is what turns raw energy into effective action. Moreover, this dynamic applies to your internal world, as well as external challenges. Your thoughts, beliefs, and decisions form the general's plan. Your emotional responses are the soldiers carrying out daily battles, handling stress, relationships, temptations, and setbacks. When the general leads effectively, the soldiers fight with discipline, resilience, and clarity. When the soldier runs the show, the mind becomes a battlefield of confusion and chaos. Understanding that the mind is the general and emotion is the soldier empowers you to take control of your life. It teaches you to recognize emotional surges as signals, not commands. It trains you to pause, reflect, and then act with intention. It builds the capacity to lead your internal forces with authority, so you don't become a victim of your own feelings. The stronger your mental general, the more effectively your emotional soldiers serve your goals. In essence, this balance is the foundation of self-mastery. It's the difference between being driven by fleeting impulses and being guided by purpose and reason. It's the difference between chaos and order, reaction and response, weakness and strength. Your mind must be the general that commands with clarity and resolve, while your emotions remain the soldiers who execute with power and precision. Together they make you unstoppable. Top of form,